Here's my new toy. This is a Clark C500 series forklift, and I believe it's a 13,500 pound capacity. I'm not positive about that. The data plate with the serial number and the capacity and everything is missing, or at least I haven't been able to find it. But I think it's a 13,500 because it has this extra plate up on top of the counterweight. I believe that's the only difference between this and the 12,000 pound capacity lift is that plate. And they also made a 10,000 pound capacity version of this lift, but I think it's a little bit shorter, and it might have a smaller counterweight as well. Anyway, the features are pretty similar, and I have a small C500 series lift that's a 3,700 pound capacity. So this is kind of like its big ugly brother. So I bought this machine sight unseen for, I would say, basically scrap price. I think it weighs somewhere between 16 and 18,000 pounds. So yeah, it's pretty heavy, and yeah, it actually cost me basically as much to move it to my shop as I paid for the machine itself. As far as I know, the machine is complete, but it's been sitting outside, uncovered, not running for at least 2 years, and I don't know if it ran prior to that. I only have 2 years of history from the previous owner. Yeah, but you know, that's par for the course. I never buy anything that actually works. So the smaller forklift that I have, the 3,700 pound capacity lift, it was also sitting outside, not running it sat for like 6 or 7 years, and it looks, just from a glance, like this machine has all the same problems. So these forklifts really were never designed to be stored outdoors. They you know, it won't destroy them, but yeah, they're really just not made for it. The chrome on the cylinders rusts and pits, and they get water in all the oil reservoirs. That's a big problem. The hydraulic tank, I'm sure, on this one is just full of water. So I'll have to crack the drain valve and see how much of it I can drain off. Luckily, it all goes to the bottom since the water is heavier than oil. So I'm going to drop the oil in the motor. The motor is not stuck. It does turn over, so that's a good sign. We can take a look at it. I got the seat kind of propped up. So that's the motor. That's a 6-cylinder flathead Continental. That is the world's simplest engine, and they're extremely reliable. I'd be very surprised if there's anything wrong with it. You can see the coil and the distributor. The cap's missing. No plug wires. There is a distributor cap laying there somewhere. I'm guessing this machine has points and condenser, so I'll have to take the distributor apart and see what the condition of the points is. It looks like some of the intake piping is goofed up. This is a propane model, so I'm not worried about the carburetor. Yeah, the muffler's shot. And I took the radiator cap off, and there's no coolant in it. Hopefully that doesn't mean that the radiator has split from being frozen. I don't know. So I'll have to pour a little water in there and see what happens. The freeze plugs in the block are good, so hopefully it didn't freeze and ruin it. I just don't know. So yeah, I'll change the oil, check the points and condenser, maybe pull the spark plugs, put a little oil in the cylinders before I go to town cranking it. Obviously it's missing the battery, and yeah, the wiring is just an absolute mess. I don't know if all forklifts are like that, but from my experience, the wiring is usually pretty bad. Yeah, this machine, I would say it's probably built in the early 1980s, maybe the late 70s. But if you look at the wiring, it's like you know, it's as crude as what you would find on a farm tractor from the 30s. There's no fuse panel. There's no, you know, real harness to speak of. It's all just wires running everywhere with inline fuses, and it can be a real pain to try to figure out what's going on. But we'll take care of it. I'm sure it's not a big deal. The other thing is the brakes are seized. That's pretty common. Like I said, these machines are not designed to be stored outside. So the other smaller Clark lift that I have also had seized brake rotors or brake drums when I got it. So I just took the wheels off and took the bowl gear off the final drive, and now we're able to roll it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take those back off and figure out what's going on with the brakes. But if it's anything like the smaller Clark that I have, it's gonna need a complete rebuild. Usually water gets into the master cylinder, and then the whole thing is just screwed. So it'll need a master cylinder, inching valve, both wheel cylinders, and then probably, you know, all the brake shoes and maybe drums. So yeah, it's not that hard to do a brake job on a forklift. Just nobody ever does it. Yeah, 4-foot forks, that's kind of a drawback. Probably going to need to find at least some 6-foot forks for what I intend to do with it. And then I had to chain the forks up so that we can get it off the truck without destroying the asphalt driveway. Yeah, so anyway, that's my project, and I think it won't take too much work to get her back up and running. Anyway, I'm going to get into it, change the oil, change the filters, put a battery in it, see if I can get her to crank over. If I can get it to crank over and I can get some spark, I'm almost positive I can get it to run. All the shift linkages for the transmission are frozen, so I got to figure that out before I can move it. And then obviously I got to get the brakes unseized and put the bowl gear back in the final drive in order for it to move under its own power. So stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be more videos about this little machine. And yeah, I'm ready to use it.